Hi, everyone. It's ergh, and it's time that I talk about it. For some of you, this may be the first time that you're hearing about this, and for others, you've probably heard way too many intimate details, and the rest of you are somewhere in between that. I need to preface this with saying that I am exhausted. My mental health has been at risk for over a year and a half, and I've spent a lot of time up until recently, mostly by myself, doing the bare minimum for me to maintain executive functioning so that I could do at least the jobs that I had, so I could at least eat groceries and pay rent. And so, just with all of my own personal things going on in my life, because that actually takes priority over every single thing else, just me and my life, like my health and wellness, and that's been an issue. One of the things that was the constant for me through this, and actually one of the lifelines, was a dance troupe that I used to be a part of called SlutChurch. I've been performing with them as a feature and headliner since 2018. And a few years back, I was invited to be a troupe member. This was like the 5th anniversary. And that has grown over time, my connection with SlutChurch, and its then producer, HoneyTree Evileye. It's the first time you're hearing me say her name. And I even say that because with all that happened, ultimately they chose to rashly leave the burlesque community, and they and their lovers and close friends used their platforms to cite like that they were being bullied and treated unfairly, and people were being cruel to them online. And I have different thoughts about that, and perhaps we'll get into it. But even in all of that, I made sure the few things that I shared, because most of this and most of the issues have been going on for over a year, none of you never knew about, because I don't use social media to manage my personal or professional life. I use direct conversations and conflict resolution and feedback, right? You'll never know majority of the things that go on day to day and the challenges that I face, because it's not your business and not necessary. So I never actually would reference her name. And when I would see people reference her name online, I would block it. And so this is the first time I'm actually saying her name intentionally. So this is about SlutChurch and HoneyTree Evileye. And I know I'm supposed to work with 2 performers who are going to help me figure out the right things to, not the right things to say, but the facts, so that when I share what happened, it's not a personal story and people can also just know the facts. And and there's an outside mediation company that I've already met with before. We have another meeting tomorrow. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's just a lot. So, I need to talk about it also because as other things happen in various nightlife industries, I'm now starting to see people use what happened with SlutChurch and HoneyTree against me, or as a weapon to try to incentivize me to behave a certain way. Like if I make a decision on one thing, I've had people say, well, but then people be like, well, but what about with HoneyTree? And that's different. Yeah, it's different because that's a person who, instead of dealing with their issues, they ran and hid and cost dozens of people their jobs. They chose to do that. And so how things that happened to me or things I went through are now being used as a weapon for others is strange. Or as the SlutChurch controversy rose, it became less about me and actually other people. And I guess that's why I want to talk too, because people are still talking about it. But the one thing I've asked for has yet to happen, which all I've asked for is a conversation. So even for people who have supported me through this, who use their platforms to amplify the message, which I'll get into some of what even any of this means. There were people who wanted her canceled, who wanted her to quit producing altogether. There were people who were coming, sharing their stories of things that happened to them 5 or 6 years ago. I can't control those people. I kept putting out, I'm not asking anyone for anything. What I wanted was a conversation with the accused. That's all. And to date, all these months later, that actually still has not happened. A bunch of other fuck shit has happened. But I still have not been able to face the person who I've come to learn has done so many shitty things. And I just want to have a conversation, which I may never get, right? I may never get that, so I have to deal with it. So let's back up a bit. So I told you I've been performing with them since like 2018. I was invited into the troupe about 2.5 years ago. And even around that time, even my brand, Siren Pack, which most of you wouldn't even know, even though Siren Pack produces in Philadelphia now, as well as New York and other places, most of you wouldn't know that Siren Pack and SlutChurch were sister troops. Did you know that? Now, granted, it's different now, but on Siren Pack's marketing and social media and website, even my own personal ones, to honor this sister partnership, constantly promoted SlutChurch. The inverse was not true. The inverse couldn't even be true, because even if you go back since February on, say, the SlutChurch social media, though every month I was one of the performers, they wouldn't even market me as a performer. Like if you start scrolling back, look for the last time you saw a single photo of me posted. Compilations, yes, but also day-to-day single images and individuals are featured. And going back since February, that stopped being the case for me. So you wouldn't even know, let alone that Siren Pack was a sister troupe of SlutChurch. And some of you might not have even known that I was still an active member week to week, month to month. But I felt like I was starting to be pushed out. But how I feel doesn't matter in this case right now. So we're sister troops. There were certain things that we did from SlutChurch would pull performers into their show from Siren Pack. Granted, over time, those performers probably would have been on the SlutChurch stage anyway, but these are performers like Katie, She's phenomenal, or Queerly Fantastic, Manifesta, Lost Boy. These are all Siren Pack troop members. And in reverse, HoneyTree and I discussed like Siren Pack would also hire SlutChurch people. HoneyTree has performed with us, Caress, ergh, which may be someone else, right? What I can say, I'm not going to go into all the minutiae details because then it just will seem like a whole novel and lodge of complaints against her. And that's not the point. In all my years of working with HoneyTree, of course, there's been different challenges that come up. There's been different questions that come up. There are decisions I don't agree with. That's just life. And anytime those instances would come up, I would always have a conversation with her. Most of these conversations would happen within the troops. We had a group message on Facebook. And that's where I would post my questions, or I would give my feedback, issues that we had with photographers, issues around not having guarantees, issues around organization, just general advocacy and questions that you would ask a producer. Well, not you, that I'm going to ask the producer. And some of these questions I ask while burlesque people and nightlife people might not be used to those questions. I come from the corporate world and in event production. And within that, these are standard questions that I would ask. And maybe she doesn't have experience of people asking those questions. And so I don't know. So yeah, incidents I can't even call them incidents. It's just day-to-day stuff that arises when you work with people with different work styles, different levels of experience. Some people don't know everything that like may have happened at a show. So you gotta inform the producer. There was nothing outside the norm, except I realized like incidents kept happening. And some of the issues were issues of like concern and safety. But I would talk to her. There's only one thing I haven't revealed to HoneyTree Evileye that I knew and was bothered by and didn't bring up, except for that one particular thing, which maybe I'll get into. Everything else she heard directly from me. She heard directly from me. I don't want to get too much into how I felt or conjure, because sometimes we connect dots that are not connected. And again, I've never had a conversation truly with HoneyTree to really hear her side of things. And so I could guess a million things, and I don't want to guess them. But I do know that starting in 2022, I noticed that my bookings started to decrease just in general around the city. And some of these bookings were also, they happen to be like people who are within HoneyTree's close circle as well. And I didn't think much of it. Yeah, I just didn't. I knew something was going on, but the last thing I thought that like she might be at the center of it, which I would later come to learn. When we got to February of 2023, unrelated to SlutChurch and HoneyTree Evileye, I decided to do my own campaign for Black History Month. I released a video that you all can watch on like 8 things you could do with your white privilege. This, if I back up last year around this time, I put out a podcast like, what should white people do on Juneteenth? And I would like to say, part of me wants to take that podcast down because I realized so many areas of ignorance I spoke on. And honestly, I gave too much grace to white people. But I keep it up because I shift and change and I grow and evolve and my knowledge deepens. And I feel like it's important to see that growth. But I remember that year I did it we were doing a tour. We did 3 shows in Denver, and we as like SlutChurch, but not SlutChurch, it was HoneyTree, and several shows were being produced. Do both SlutChurch, such and such. One of the shows was even happening on Juneteenth. And there was feedback from the Black community in Denver who didn't appreciate that a white producer was coming from out of town to do her own shows, and especially on like the Day of the Blacks, Juneteenth. And even me, this is ignorant me being the magical Negro. I take full ownership for the way I like huckled and jived and almost was fucking coon-like. Like I was the magical Negro. Because I was like, well, like I'm a part of SlutChurch and I'm coming with you. And Siren Pack is your sister troupe. So in essence, there is a Black producer and a Black performer. I can just be the face of it so the heat is off of you. So I plastered it everywhere. I even used some of my business contacts that really only wanted Siren Pack connected to them. And I was like, no, Siren Pack and SlutChurch are one. So please let me promote SlutChurch. Because also at that time, Siren Pack was not producing our regularly scheduled shows. So I made it seem like, not made it seem like I was co-producing with her, but I just amplified it even more and like blackified it even more. And so February 2023, a year of more experiences, I put out that video on things you could do with your privilege. And that was just to everyone. That wasn't targeted to anyone. That wasn't even targeted to burlesque producers, right? I talk about if you're a photographer, if you're a venue owner. And one of my personal challenges, I didn't announce this. I know that there's a lot of you that your day-to-day lives are marked online. Mine is not. Majority of the things I do, you will never know about. 1, because it's none of your fucking business. And 2, because I don't need an audience I don't need the audience. It's not necessary. But since people don't know, and because this ties back to HoneyTree, one of the things I decided to do for February was to only engage with Black people on social media. Like if it came to liking posts, commenting, sharing, I wanted to intentionally alter my personal algorithm on social media apps. Most people I engage with on social media, it's like the normal 10 people I always connect with. And so they're always in my feed. A lot of them are white. And I realized I was not intentionally seeking out Black creators and artists, even the ones that I knew, friends of mine. I'm never promoting their stuff, or just not even about promoting their stuff. I'm not even coming across them in my feed. So I decided the only people I would engage with online was either Black people or any non-Black person who answered the question in my video on 8 things you can do with your privilege. That was the only exception I would make. And that was great, because then there were a handful of people like Ginger Puss, she's a producer. They are a producer for Queer Productions, and they were someone I had numerous conversations with. And then I felt comfortable engaging with them online, because I'm like, they're an ally, advocate. It doesn't even matter that they're an ally or advocate. I tell people, if you're non-Black and your answer is nothing, like you verbally say, I'm not doing nothing, that's answering my question, and that's great. But silence will not work. So any non-Black person who is silent, it wasn't a punishment. I just wasn't going to go out of my way to engage with you online. And I want to intentionally amplify the amazing Black people who I've never been intentional about engaging with online. So I did that all month. On March 1st, I got a text message from HoneyTree. We don't talk that often. We're not actually friends. That might be, some people might assume that, but no, we're not friends. I don't personally know her like that. Have we hung out? We've never hung out one-on-one. That's another tell sign. It's been with either a group of people or SlutChurch people. So we're not connected in that way, but that's not to discount our working connection, at least up until that point. And most of our conversations happen in the SlutChurch group message. Even that, she would later release a lying video of fuckery. And one of the things she put out was that how things got so bad that there always had to be someone present in our conversations. That's a lie. That is a bold-faced fucking lie. And it's people spin stories, or they only tell part of the story to make it more exaggerated and skewed in their favor. The truth of the matter, before I go back to her March 1st text, is that most of our conversations only happen in the SlutChurch group chat, which means all of us are there. So of course there's always people present. It's not because there's tensions. That's the way we converse. It's like if I worked in an office and I shared an office with 5 people. And so one of my colleagues is like, yeah, whenever Shay and I had to talk, there always had to be people present. Because we only talked about business within the shared office of the other business people. So you could put down that lie, HoneyTree, and all the rest of her friends. It's fuck shit. We barely talk ever on a one-to-one basis to even say that. There was one time that someone was present. And we'll get to that because I was following when she was drunk and intoxicated and confronted me at work. And that was a problem. Anyhow, so on March 1st, I get a text from her out of nowhere, because if you scroll back through the random times we text, she might send me a message about a last minute gig and if I'm interested or not, whatever. And the March 1st text, I'm going to paraphrase, but I'm sure when I'm supposed to do this like professionally and intentionally, there'll be the actual facts and things. But her text basically was like, you've lost enthusiasm for me and SlutChurch. And over the various texts, she referenced me as being mad, being passive aggressive, being angry, and numerous other things. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because up until that day, I didn't know. I performed like once a month at SlutChurch. I would come to work, usually the first one there. I speak to everyone. I do my job. I engage with the audience. I say bye and I go home. So I was confused what had happened for them to even say I lost enthusiasm. I also didn't know I was required to have enthusiasm for them as a person or even SlutChurch. But I was just like, what are you talking about? And they kept going, just saying stuff. And that didn't make sense. And I was like, what are you trying to say? Like, what do you know that I don't know? And I was like, and why do you keep stating what my feelings and emotions are? Why don't you just ask me, how am I? So then we did get on a phone call. And instead of like even talking about that specific issue, her text, she started to bring up stuff from last year, right? This was where things started, where I got on alert. For instance, as we talked, I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, well, for instance, you wanted me to ban a particular photographer. Right? Those were her exact words, that I wanted her to ban someone from the show, a photographer. And I said, HoneyTree, I've never asked you to ban anybody from a show, let alone a photographer. Like, those words have never come out of my mouth. And she was like, well, paraphrasing now because I don't remember the exact thing, and woe is me for not remembering word for word of every conversation in my life, even ones that happened months ago or years ago. But paraphrasing, she was like, well, like you had feedback for them, like criticisms, which I did. This photographer shows if you do boudoir shoots with them, they will be in front of other people or at shows, and they will show your naked pictures to strangers without your consent. This photographer is known to make comments about people's skin tone. They have favoritism around body types, and plus size performers feel very uncomfortable. Not even just plus size performers. If you're not their favorite skinny white person, you're lucky if you get a couple of good shots. The photographer dropped the ball a number of times, not showing up at shows because different things came up, but they also had first right of refusal for any other photographer to be in the show. And I don't want to get too much into those things because then people will be like, that was going on. It's not even about these little things, because the point was I never wanted the photographer banned. I felt like this was an opportunity to give them constructive feedback and set new boundaries and keep working with them. Like, there are lines where someone crosses and you remove them, but before we get there if that's even necessary. There are other things that can be done. My feedback to her was always to give him feedback. Her stance is because this person shot for free, she couldn't ask them anything. I don't agree with that. But in our conversation on March 1st, I was like, I know you told me that last year. So why are you bringing up the photographer again? Like, I haven't brought it up in a while. And I get it. You're saying you can't do anything. And then she was asking me, well, what do you think I should do? I'm done giving free producer advice for everyone. I had spent years giving all my resources to HoneyTree. I also had given her direct feedback on what she could say to him. I wasn't going to repeat myself. Also, it's March 1st, the day after the month of Blacks. And now I'm on the phone with a white producer who, one, is twisting my words, who's making accusations about my emotional state and my feelings, and who's saying things like, I asked for someone to be banned and I never did. And they corrected it and they don't know what to do. And I was like, there are classes you could take. Any of us could take on event management, conflict resolution, how to give feedback. Like, those resources are for free out there. And there are workshops but I'm not like, I could send an invoice and then offer. So I was like, I'm not going to help make him a better person. I have reached my limit, but I just wanted to clarify that I never asked for that person to be banned. And I mentioned that because that would come up later about other people that I've asked to be banned. Never asked that. I didn't even know I had the power to do that. To this day, I don't ask for that. And it probably puts me in some dangerous situations, actually. Anywho, our conversation continued, and she rehashed shit from a year prior, which I'm like, is that why? Like, but why on March 1st is she bringing up stuff from a year ago that we either already addressed or is just like null and void or whatever? And she talked about how it was so hard managing all the kids, you all, the other burlesque dancers, you're her little children, her little babies, her kiddos, and it's hard managing all the interpersonal stuff. I don't use that language. We're all full-grown fucking adults. Different levels of communication styles, emotional intelligence, experience in the industry, but we're all 18 and plus. I don't remember quite how the conversation ended, but I remember knowing I was kind of on alert from that point on. I was just like, And I would just notice month to month since March of 2023, it just seemed that anything I had to say to her, any question that I had, was a trigger for her. If I asked a question, she took it as an attack. She took it as disrespect. And these are some of her words later, say that I don't respect her, that there was nothing quite that I could say that wasn't met with resistance on her part. So I would say less and less. As far as like when we would brainstorm and have questions as a troupe, I'd still do my job. I'd show up at photo shoots. I'd show up at shows. And I'd be pleasant, professional, kind, taking amazing videos of her as well as everyone else. Because while I couldn't quite figure out what personal thing was going on, that's separate than like business and like getting the job done. But it didn't matter what I had to say to her or what questions I asked. It was always an issue. We had this big show we were planning, and one of our most expensive shows to date. And we had months to plan this event. And as the days crept in, I would start asking questions of like, how are we going to sell this? And what are our guarantees? And do we have a dressing room? Like, if we're going to perform at a play party where people are having kink and sex and I don't want to engage, do we have a dressing room where performers can go and close the door? And there was just either a lot of control, like she didn't have the answers, but she said the venue wasn't responsive. So I said, could I reach out to the venue and ask those questions? And she was particular. I could only ask questions on the dressing room. I couldn't ask questions on this. And I'm like, fine, I don't want to overstep. This is your show. Run it how you want to run it. And even once I would get the answers, I was like, cool. I would post in the group chat, this is what the venue said about the dressing room. Somehow that would get turned against me later by HoneyTree and her cahoots, her group. Ultimately, that show was canceled last minute. because it wasn't properly produced and marketed. It was canceled very last minute. Even when we would have 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, the troop members would check in about it, and it was fuck shit. So it was canceled. There was no guarantees, whatever. Then there was some point towards the end of the summer, I came to learn that SlutChurch would be doing auditions, and even all the troop members who had been invited to be in the troop would now have to re-audition. And to repeat, on like a week-to-week basis, in our group chat, if business came up of our shows, she was always activated or triggered, no matter what I would say. So now I learn, like, we get this bomb drop, like, info in our group chat that, hey, everyone, all of a sudden you all are going to have to audition. These are the new requirements. Here are applications. You're going to have to do this. One of your shows coming up is going to have to do that. I can't talk about it right now because I have a class. And yes, I've talked to some of you about this, but I haven't had the chance to talk to the rest of you. So, oops, here you go, paraphrasing. And I'm like, wait a second, when did this happen? Because I see them at least once a month, sometimes twice a month at our shows, and they've never brought it up with me. And I was curious, was it the first time anyone else had heard? Which wasn't true. There are numerous troop members who'd had the privilege of knowing that our entire troop was being restructured. There were people outside of our troop that knew that. I didn't know it until the last minute, right before she had to go to a class or a show in which she couldn't even answer questions. We just got all the information. And she was like, and if you have questions, you could ask me one-on-one. So I posted all my questions in the group chat. I was like, well, since this is my first time receiving this, I'm just going to share what comes up for me. And I would like to request a meeting with you. Here are all my questions. I was like, also, because I know others might have some of these same questions, anyone else is welcome to join me in my one-on-one with HoneyTree to talk about this. Like, you all are welcome to join my one-on-one to listen to this conversation. That morphed. I remember as we led up to it, I sent an agenda of how I wanted to go over things. And I asked everyone if they had changes or suggestions, and no one had any. Even trying to schedule it was a whole thing, but no one had any feedback on the agenda. So I'm like, cool. As soon as we go into the meeting, HoneyTree bogarts it. She has a presentation she wants us to watch, which is just her rehashing what she dropped in the chat. I learned no new information. And she silenced me. It was a whole thing. It was stupid. And watching the troop just sit there and watch it happen was hard. It was hard, but we all make decisions that we make, and I don't hold it against them. She tried so hard not to get me to talk in the room. Like, after her presentation, I was like, can I ask my questions now? Because I didn't even agree with how she wanted to do the meeting. I was bothered by that, but what can I do? The producer's like, even though this is a one-on-one meeting for us that you invited, others, like, I'm going to tell you how it's going to go. Not her words, just how the situation unfolded. Oh, I also have a back injury, so I'm just a little uncomfortable, but this needs to get out because humans and muggles just are sloppy motherfuckers at times, myself included. So after her presentation, she asked everyone else if they had questions before remember, I'm the one who was like, I have questions. And we went through my questions, and I mean, she couldn't answer them. There was so much resistance. There was so much befuddlement and bafflement. She struggled. Whatever. And I don't know what to say. All I know is that there was fuckery surrounding how this audition and kind of the new rules of the troupe would be. Some of it didn't make sense, which is why I was asking questions. But at the end of the day, I knew that I had to audition on my birthday show that would be in August. That would never happen because eventually I would be kicked out of SlutChurch for asking for a conversation. And so I never was paid for that show. And not just paid like the guarantee, but like on your birthday shows and that is SlutChurch show, we make significant tips. So just all that was just gone. But anywho, that meeting happened, and even afterwards, I still had questions, but I finally, it seemed like from her lack of clarity that everything I was doing, I could continue doing, and 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 I just needed to fill out also the application. I had my suspicions about certain things, but I didn't bring them up because I'll follow the rules to the letter of the law. Like, I will do exactly what you ask of me. That's it. I don't know, between this huge show being canceled, like I think it was in June or July, these auditions and just different things would keep happening. I remember a troop member after one show was like, does mommy and daddy need to have a talk? I really wish you all would be more professional in nightlife. And this is from everything from getting drunk. Like, it's why I don't even like giving out drink tickets at my shows. That's like if we worked in an office building at 9 a.m., you come to work asking for a drink ticket. Can you do your job first? Like, could you maybe like wait until you clock out before asking for me to help intoxicate you? And even the way we talk about one another as well. So when the performer came up to me and was like, does mommy and daddy need to have a talk? I was like, what's going on with your family? Like, it didn't even occur to me that they were referencing me, because why are you like babyfying me or whatever the word is? And then they were like, no, you and HoneyTree. And I was like, do you mean does HoneyTree need to talk to me? Like, I don't have anything more I need to say to her. Anytime something has arisen, I've given her feedback. There's nothing else I'm holding on to. And this is where I'll pause to say the one thing I was holding on to. Just like we had this huge show / play party that was going to happen at a kinky Airbnb canceled because of being poorly produced and a lack of marketing, even with months to go, and just all the balls dropped. I came to learn another show that was supposed to happen in September at a new venue was canceled as well. I don't even know, the rest of the troupe never knew this because she never even bothered to tell them. I just knew because by accident from another thing, and I was asked not to reveal that because I wasn't supposed to know until, I guess, HoneyTree announced it to the troupe. Now, we would have known at least a month and a half, at least a month and a half prior to it being canceled. Maybe 2 months, I knew it was canceled. She never told us. Day to day went by, and troop members, this might be the first time you all are hearing about it. I'd known for 2 months that mid-September date of a show had been canceled, and she wasn't going to tell us until the last minute. Or not, she hadn't told us, and I wondered if she was waiting until the last minute like she did with that kinky Airbnb, even though she had officially done it. Like, it had been removed from the calendar. That probably would get bundled up in when she just quit burlesque without considering anybody else. And some people blame me. Like, there are a lot of you all who think you lost your jobs because of me. No, you lost your jobs because HoneyTree made some really bad decisions as a producer and some really selfish and rash decisions. But that September show, if you count that as one that you lost, it wasn't even because of her quitting. She'd canceled that for us much earlier and hadn't even communicated it. Anywho, where was I? So, does mommy and daddy need to talk? So I told this other person who's also a producer in Philly. I told them, if HoneyTree wants to talk, we can talk. Like, I don't have any issue with her. Frankly, I don't know what's going on. Like, can someone tell me something? What am I missing? And even they were like, well, we don't know everything. And granted, this person also has criticism of HoneyTree as a producer, but never tells them because they also are friends with them. So I can't say never tells them publicly. No, they don't tell them. I actually know this. Anywho, that happened right now. Like, I started seeing this spin of like, HoneyTree and Shay have issues. I don't fucking have an issue. I have a white woman asking me why I don't have enthusiasm for her. And I don't know what's going on. The next major thing I could say that happened, and granted, there have been other incidents kind of tied into this, but I won't get into that. The next incident that happened, think about, well, this may have been before. We did have an anniversary show. No, I don't need to get into that yet. The next incident that happened, there was one show in July when we had a visiting performer, a Siren Pack performer, come to SlutChurch. And after the show is over, I'm known for just going home. I don't really socialize. But I was going to stay and hang out with my friends and dance and drink and just like I wanted to. And as I was going to get my drink, even people were like, "Are you leaving? I want to hug you before you say bye." I was like, no, I'm still here. I'm just going to go get a drink real quick. As I was leaving the dressing room, HoneyTree, who's the producer of the show, asked if she could speak to me about something. And again, because I don't know any issue happening. So I'm like, oh, okay, sure. What's going on? Clearly, she's drunk and intoxicated. She often comments about this at the start of the show, that by the end she will have had edibles and things, and that she'll be in another state of mind, and she was. And to paraphrase the conversation, she just came at me with more accusations. Remember how she told me I was passive aggressive, angry, had no enthusiasm for her earlier? Now I learned that I hated half the audience. I asked her, what did she see in my behavior that would show that I hated the audience? She told me I was gaslighting her by asking her, how did I hate the audience? She told me that I didn't respect her. I didn't want to be at SlutChurch. I was like, what? How do you know these things? I was like, instead of telling me, why don't you ask me a question? Like, how am I? How do I feel about you? And it was just blank stare. To date, she will never ask me an actual question in which she could hear my response. She just keeps telling me about myself. And that conversation kept going in a circle because I was like, you know what? Sure, we can talk, but another time. I don't want to do it tonight. I'm at work. I still want to hang out with my friends. You're in a different state of mind. Like, I don't even feel like this is equal ground. This is the producer with me in a corner as the performer, intoxicated, lodging accusations like at any other job. If I was at work and my boss was like, you hate half the clients while they're drunk, that's going to cause alarm for me. And I even knew I couldn't just walk away because she would form that into a story. Everything that I did, she would start to twist now. So if I walked away, the next day I would probably hear, Shay stormed out while I was trying to be a friend. So I'm just standing there looking at her. And I was like, I will reach out to you at another time so that we can talk. And I remember at one point, she's like, and I want you here. I care for you. And see, I'm giving you compliments right now, and you're not giving me any. Okay. I love how people you're never going to force me to say something. I don't do that. I'm never going to be pressured into anything. I'm going to say what I mean to say. I am going to speak when I am ready to speak. I have full autonomy and sovereignty over myself. So whatever this movement is in people, to try to force someone's hand or think because I did this to you, now you do it back. Gain some emotional intelligence and grow the fuck up. And it's not the time or place. And I remember that whole conversation was messy with her. It was messy. People kind of saw it and was peeking. I wish someone had just come in and interrupted because I did not feel like I could walk away. I told her I was, by this point now, having drunk producer lodge these issues at me. I asked if when we had the next conversation, that since they had something to say to me, if someone else could be present. Because remember when I talked to her, things twist. Remember when we had the one conversation, I wanted to ban a photographer and I never did. I wasn't enthusiastic. I hate the audience. But she wasn't saying this when other people were present. I mean, now she does. Now she'll just lie outright in front of the troop. But I was like, can someone else be there just as a witness? Even for me, if I'm this horrible of a person with an attitude, have someone there. Let there be a witness. She was crying and like, she accused me of possibly recording her in that moment of like saying I was going to go to HR. I didn't even know Burlesque had HR. I fucking wish we fucking did. Anyways, the conversation, I had a headache. Like I remember right as soon as that conversation ended, I went outside and was smoking cannabis. And even that didn't work. I had to sit down because I just was like, what the fuck is going on? I remember once I got a ride home with someone and they started to piece together that something had happened and they were asking questions. I was like, can we talk about this in the morning? Because I can't even wrap my mind around what the fuck just happened. That inappropriate, highly inappropriate behavior by a producer, by a human at a show. So we would go on to have a conversation. We had a Zoom chat a few days later. The other person was present. They never said anything. They just stayed quiet the whole time, just so there was a witness present. Though again, I didn't ask this of them, but I wish they had spoken up because there were 2 times in that conversation where I feel like HoneyTree crossed the line and was entirely inappropriate, including her use of like referencing me and my questions as dumb, my business questions. Anyhow, we had that conversation and it just went in a circle. She couldn't answer. Like I gave her my viewpoint of like, listen, every time I have a question of feedback, I give it to you. But something seems to have happened March 1st when you sent that text. And since then, it's just been an onslaught from you. What is going on? What have I done to you? Like, what is this shit? And she couldn't give me a straight answer. To date, I have not gotten a real answer of why this woman has gone on a whole smear campaign with her community against me. Here are a few things that I finally got her to say. Because I kept going back to, why did you text me on March 1st? Like we hadn't been communicating even since then, unless it was about business. Why did that happen? What prompted March 1st? She said 3 things. First, she told me she has seen my behavior change at the shows towards the audience. I asked her, what? Can you give me examples? Like, I don't smile anymore? Do I not go out in the audience and dance with them anymore? Do I ignore them? Do I bark at them? Do I snatch the money out of their hand instead of not? Like, what behavior has changed if you're able to notice it? That's not a defense. Like you all may see things I don't see. And some of those things, it might be me intentionally being an asshole, or you think I ignored a person, I just didn't see them. Tell me what behavior has changed, because I am very particular about being professional, about doing my job above and beyond. She said she wasn't going to give me any details. Okay, so what the fuck can I do with that? Then she switched to say there are 3 long-term patrons of our show who said they will not go to a show if you're cast in it. Okay. We all have people like that who won't go to a show if we're cast in it. That's not connected to HoneyTree seeing my behavior change to the audience. But this is now what she shifted to. There are 3 people I suspect are the ones saying that. And I asked her point blank, I used their names. Like, let's have a real fucking conversation. We don't need secrets. And she said it wasn't them. So I was like, well, who won't come to the show if I'm cast? She said she wouldn't tell me. So then why the fuck are we talking about it? And she even was like, because we all have that. That happens with everyone. Then why did I get that fucking text on March 1st and all of this fuckery leading now? That's not the language I use in the conversation with her. This is just my rehashing with extra attitude. Remember, I had a witness present. So even I can be checked. And even the witness told me there was feedback they could give me on how I could facilitate a better conversation. I'm not fucking above reproach. Second thing she told me was that previous year when we were planning a Halloween show, she didn't like how me and another performer tried to support her. Like, this is why she told me I didn't have enthusiasm for her and was passive aggressive and stuff. I was like, we were producing a show. You were struggling to find a venue. You were too busy. The entire troupe offered to help you. But every time they gave suggestions of venues, it wasn't qualified the right way. So we kept asking questions to help you. I was like, how did that become an issue? I was like, and then once I realized you just said no to everything we did, I stopped. And then ultimately we didn't do the show. So how does that reflect on me being passive aggressive, mad, angry, lacking enthusiasm, wanting people banned? How did me offering help and then when I was told no, leaving it the fuck alone? The third thing she told me as to why she feels I'm passive aggressive, angry, I don't have enthusiasm for her or SlutChurch, was because I don't promote her anymore like I used to on social media. And that's specifically, I did not do it. The only time I didn't do it was February. Remember earlier in the story, I told you that for February, I only liked Black people's posts and non-Black people who answered my questions about their privilege. If you go back prior to that, January and on, she and I would engage. I didn't like every post of hers, but I would like her posts, and I would share her and my stories just like anyone else. So in my mind, I'm like, all this drama is because I didn't like your post during Black History Month? Are you fucking kidding me? And she was like, yeah, the way you share your love for people and stuff, you haven't done that for me in a while. I didn't even know that was a requirement, that if I don't share that I post about on the producer, from the producer's personal page, that reflects on how I feel about the troupe. I mean, I didn't go into all this with her. I'm just like, wow, these are unhinged responses. Like all this because I didn't like a white woman's post and during Black History Month. Like, this is very immature, frankly. Like, I remember at that point, I just glitched. Like, like I glitched and things fell into place. I realized there was nothing left to be said, that this was not a logical conversation, that nothing I said to this person was reaching, that they were convinced of their truth and okay. I don't really recall how the conversation ended. It was like there are things that we both can do to learn to be better communicators and blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, so even going back, because HoneyTree Evileye, Victoria Reno, Flirt, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Jada, and several other people have released statements and videos, many of them talking about how they've known that for months there's been ongoing tensions and communication issues. Where? How? Give me examples. How is HoneyTree pillow talking to her lovers, but not actually telling the person? Because the only communication tension I found is that I didn't like her post during Black History Month. Give me other examples of the tensions we both had. Because all I can hear is that she had issues with me. Please, someone tell me what I did so I can take ownership of it, reflect on it, or even be held accountable. Give me an example of what the fuck I did. I will deal with it, but none of these people can. And the only thing I can get from HoneyTree that's a concrete thing is her posts were not liked by my personal page. Her personal posts were not liked by my personal page. And that's this issue. And as I was still reeling from that, but getting ready to put in my application for SlutChurch, of which I've been a member for years, but typing that, I'm prepping for my audition, which also happens to be my birthday show. So while it's like a time of like celebration, while I'm mentally trying not to lose my shit, now I have the added pressure that within the small time frame, though she and everyone else has known in her circle have known about auditions for months, because of this last minute drop, I have a small window of now using my birthday show to prepare to audition. It would be days later when it was brought to me, more slander that was brought back, that ground zero was HoneyTree. There is a particular person who I do not know from the fucking man on the moon. I've had 2 short, brief interactions with them, and that is it. I won't even get into it because they're so insignificant. It doesn't even matter. All you need to know is this person is an absolute fucking stranger to me. This person was going to numerous people saying that I wanted people banned from shows. See, this word came up again. Only person I've ever heard the word banned from was HoneyTree. Now this person is saying there were numerous people I wanted banned from the show, that I had told, they're quoting HoneyTree. I would later come to confirm this, that I prevented them from being a part of SlutChurch. Like, they wanted to be more involved, but because of me and my issues with them, which I'm like, you don't even exist in my world. I don't know you. Who are you? Not even who are you? You are inconsequential to my life for me to even have an opinion on you. But they had this whole list of things that there were certain that I said they couldn't be in marketing for our anniversary show. I didn't know they were in our anniversary show until I saw them in the dressing room. So how could I have told HoneyTree prior, they can't be in SlutChurch, when I didn't know they existed? And they can't be in the marketing when I didn't even know they were in the anniversary show. I heard there were certain images that I asked to be removed from our archives. Lies. So it was a whole list of things that I told HoneyTree that basically was preventing this person. They were going around spreading it. In their slander that they spread, they brought up race. Let me be clear. I've never brought up race in any of this stuff with HoneyTree. Now, I've brought up the fact that, like, Black History Month, that particular thing, but all of my challenges with her, my feedback about how she's been producing shows, just the business stuff, I've never brought race into this, never, because I don't need to. I don't need to bring any of my identities, me being queer, me being Black, me being short, me being whatever the ways in which my power, like the power dynamics, are more in her favor. I never needed to bring those up because just the business things that happen stood on their own. But this person, this non-binary stranger that I don't know, who thinks my world revolves around them, was saying that I didn't want them involved in the show, according to HoneyTree. And they were like, in referencing me making it a Black issue, they referenced my mental health and minimized it. I don't even know this person, and how fucking dangerous we all are being to one another. Like, I don't know that person. I don't know what they're going through in their life, and I don't need to know to not be so careless and reckless. And the way we are just being so sloppy, you have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea the impact it has on people. And instead of just listening to hearsay, instead of just like ask like, this person never asked me, this absolute stranger. So I'm getting these messages of what this person is saying, and I'm like, fuck, I'm already losing gigs. I'm not getting booked. This slander is fucking with my life. At that point, SlutChurch was like the only consistent gig that I had. And that wasn't even enough by that point. No one else was booking me because I didn't realize HoneyTree had a whole campaign going on. I still to this day struggling to find a day job. So I'm like, I stand to lose everything. And what the fuck is going on? So the moment I found out that this person was quoting HoneyTree, I put all three of us in a conversation. And I was angry. I did. I wasn't calm and like, so I wasn't mediator me. I was human me. And I was like, here are some of the things I've heard that's been said about me. I did not say them. So I was like, did you, stranger, who did you hear this from? Did this come from HoneyTree? And they said, yeah. Now they tried to turn it into another issue about who they're dating and who their friends are. And that is not, I don't give a fuck. I don't know I don't know them. I don't give a fuck. I haven't dated anyone for over a year. Whatever. Sorry, my gremlin's coming out. They confirmed that HoneyTree told them all these things. I then told them I never asked of these things and I've never said these things. This did not come from me. And they, again, one day I can show you the screenshots. These are real. You're going to see me like in my responses too. I have nothing, absolutely nothing to hide. So they basically, when I said, I never said these things, and I'm paraphrasing, I would appreciate it if you would stop spreading these lies. It's a slander. As if you don't, I will escalate. Escalating for me is I'm going to hop on social media and tell a story. No, to this day, I'm trying to find how I can legally sue them for slander and defamation of character. Like, if this needs to become a legal issue, I am ready, because we're going to stop fucking with people's lives. So this was me telling that person, not HoneyTree, because she would later lie to the truth and said that I threatened her to escalate things and blah, blah, blah. No, this was to the one person, because I told them directly, I never said these things. You never heard it from me. You're quoting HoneyTree, who the whole time HoneyTree was silent. Like, while me and the other person was going back and forth, HoneyTree was quiet. So once the person said, I'm going to keep saying these things no matter what, I was like, okay, you're dismissed from the conversation. I want to get to ground zero. I want to find where's the source so we can look each other in the eye. I removed them from the conversation because now they're irrelevant. Whatever. And I turned to HoneyTree and said, I look forward to you and me talking now. Because now I got to the source of it. Like, now I got, because again, included that there were several people I asked to be banned. There are people who I'm like, they can't be in the show. None of these things are true. And I know some of you, her long, close friends who spend every day with her, no matter what, you're going to believe it. But I never said any of these things to her. Everything I've said to her is inside of a group chat with the rest of SlutChurch. Now, anything you all wanted to add on to that or think I meant whatever, no, I mean the words I used, nothing more, nothing less. HoneyTree's response was to fire me from SlutChurch. Just fired me. She removed me from the troop. She gave them a lying message saying that I engaged in a toxic conversation with a member of the community. No word on this slander and this, fuck it. Anywho. So I was fired. And my gig was like the birthday gig that was also my audition was going to be in another week and a half. And business kept on going. There was the next SlutChurch and she did her little dance and it was going to be the next one. And some of the troop was like, what? Some of the troop out, they were like, we all need to talk. And HoneyTree was like, no, keep Shay and I out of it. Why is she running from a direct conversation? Why is she speaking on my behalf? And I want to be clear, the only thing I want to this date is a conversation with HoneyTree. That is the only thing I've been asking for since July. I've not been asking for her to be canceled. I didn't ask for her shows to be removed. Many of her shows I think are phenomenal. I think there are things she needs to improve on, but I've given all the feedback I can. I didn't ask for her to be retired. The only fucking thing I've asked for is a conversation with the person who has started all this slander and created so much division among so many people in regards to me. Because remember, I tried to have that conversation with the witness present, and she talked fuck shit. She didn't bring this stuff up that had been going on for months. She never referenced any of this. Never. Anytime I directly asked her. But now I had direct quotes from a person whose source was HoneyTree, and I'm like, let's talk. That exploded, right? Several people. Now, I do remember I put up a picture of the other person when they did say they were not going to stop talking shit about me. I put up this picture, that the only picture that exists with me and them. And I was like, listen, if you know this person, tell them to shut the fuck up, because I don't know what else to do. What they're saying about me isn't true. These have been my two interactions with them. I do not know them. Like, if you see them and my name comes out of their mouth, tell them to shut the fuck up, because like this is costing me. And then again, moments later, I was fired. Other people starting to see this amplified the message. Some of them asked, well, even actually some of them didn't ask, like it got amplified, and then it turned into something else. Other people started sharing on social media their issues with HoneyTree, some stuff going back 5-10 years. All of a sudden the narrative got changed into like it's HoneyTree versus like the Black community. I can't speak on her track record with Black people or POC. And remember, I never even need to pull the Black card. I'm still just trying to approach the slander card. I'm trying to get people banned and things like that. And even as people started sharing stories, and some in support of me or just in support of the industry or the bigger issues at play, even inaccuracies were being spread with even my name on it. And the whole time, I wasn't quoting her name. I was talking about it in general. I would correct people in fucking defense of her. I would go back in people's inbox and be like, listen, that story you just posted, that is not accurate. I mean, it would make her look like a monster. Great. I don't know. But I was like, that's not accurate, and that's not what happened. Like, if you like, I'm not okay with that. There were several people I did that to. Some I asked to remove things, take things down, change things, put out a second statement. And then I realized it stopped even being about me. Because eventually, HoneyTree says she felt bullied to quit burlesque. That's her own feelings to have, or whatever she put in that lying ass fucking bullshit video that was careless and cost me even more. How fucking dare you be so cruel? So fucking cruel in all I've done. And all I've done with you and for you. How fucking dare you? But I see you now. I get it. So it stopped being about me. So eventually she quit, and people are like, yes, she's gone. Like, so many people, so many of you all are so fucking happy. You got what you wanted, but I didn't get what I asked for. I still haven't gotten a simple conversation. That's all I want. Well, I want to get paid too, but I just asked for a conversation. To date, months later, it hasn't happened. I will say since then, the troop has tried, like, they found an outside mediating company, where even that, there's been some careless things with that, because instead of me being emailed my personal account, they sent it to one of my work email addresses, that a whole team of people are on that email address. So now, like, I bring this up because even over the last few days, I've been posting things about sides to stories and things. And again, while other people think that my life centers on them and my comments are about them, I've been saying these things because I don't know when this will come up, but it's Tuesday today, which would be a SlutChurch day. Tuesdays are kind of hard for me right now. But tomorrow, Wednesday, I have a third call with this outside mediation company, and just me alone. Even I've been emailing them twice, like, now in this call, will the other troop members be present? Will HoneyTree be present? Like, why am I spending so many hours, like, doing this? Like, when will I have a conversation to face my fucking accused, who just keeps hiding and going private, and who quit burlesque but didn't because they performed at Frankie Bradley's? Are you all going to protest Frankie Bradley's now? The HoneyTree performs there? If we're being consistent with our standards? I don't think that's what should be done, but according to some of you all's standards, none of you should be performing at Frankie Bradley's anymore, right? If you're consistent to your beliefs and your principles, right? And your values. Anywho, I haven't had that conversation. And I don't know, there's another mediation call tomorrow, and there's just a lot of stress around it, because it's just been months later. Even when the video HoneyTree released and the statements all her friends released, that was a coordinated effort that they did on my birthday. All that stuff was released on and she knows my birthday, because as a troop, we celebrate it. There's calendar. It could be me guessing, but I refuse to fucking believe that wasn't intentional, to use my birthday to have all of her lovers and her close friends release lies about me online publicly that are still just out there, that I'm getting questioned about from my corporate contacts even. This mess incentivized another white passing, but you know, because I don't want this person to go off. They're non-black. A non-black person connected to HoneyTree went on to connect this to, they used my name and rape in the same sentence, saying that I raped their experience, and that was why I was fired from SlutChurch on my birthday. I have a whole group of non-black people further slandering me publicly. We're at a month and a half later. Like I said, tomorrow there's the next mediation. I try having conversations with everyone involved. I try to stick to the facts, try to ask questions. And it keeps growing. And even now, all these months later, because there's people who are like, well, I supported you with HoneyTree. There's a handful of people who have said that in relation to different things. Like, as my brand is starting to set standards with venues, or like, how do we give feedback on this thing? I've gotten feedback like, well, but what if people say they supported you with HoneyTree? Yes, people gave me gifts in Venmo because a bitch is struggling. And I've lost the main source of my income now. Like, I am struggling. No government assistance, no nothing. And people were like, well, we talked publicly about this. Oh, you did, but that was about you. Because what I want is a conversation. It's not about me going online and trying to pressure this person into doing something. I don't want anyone pressured into anything. I don't believe in that fucking shit. It's unnecessary. It's immature. And it's stupid for me. It may work for you. I don't believe in that. I want to have a conversation, because we all exist in a small industry. And the world is small. And if that's the case, we all need to be canceled and retired and just thrown by the wayside. That's not how I approach issues. Even this person who has cost me so much. So much. All I want is to sit down and have a conversation with them. There are many things I didn't go into details about. There is so much. There were also If you think like maybe it's like, oh, it's just me, there are many of these SlutChurch members who came forward in public about their own interactions, not just stuff where they witnessed what happened to me, but their own interactions with her. Several people. So this also isn't just about me. It's real feedback and criticism for a producer who has some struggles and problems right now, who use me as the scapegoat to just absolve themselves of all their responsibilities and leave everyone on alert. So they could have easily passed off their shows to producers who are in their shows. SlutChurch has like 4 different people who are producers who could have temporarily run it while they took the break they needed. Their Do Both show has another co-producer. Their music show, inspired by my suggestions and themes, had a co-producer. There's so many things they could have done besides just throwing their hands up, blaming me and the industry. It just worked because it seemed like they were overwhelmed anyway and dropping so many balls, and this was the perfect time to kind of do a soft reset. I hear Victoria's retiring too, because the industry has changed. It has changed. I remember being at an event with her, and I was negotiating with the venue owner about a burlesque show because there's 50 million drag shows everywhere. Like, the world loves to pay AMAB men, whether they're queer, non-binary, trans, or just a cross-dresser. They love to pay AMAB men who present as women and femmes, thus drag queens, right? So I'm not apt to book drag queens. There's very few I will book, but I'll book drag creatures, drag kings. So I am pitching a burlesque show because it's hard to get a venue to pay someone who is a fab or femme presenting to do the very same thing. She cut me off to pitch a drag show instead. It wasn't even for her to pitch. She was outside socializing with other people and then cut off my conversation to forward her thing. And I remember just being like, fuck. And it would be a year later, they had a drag show. Now, I could have been more forward and pushed it, but it was more so watching her, how she was so comfortable cutting me off while I'm having a business discussion to further her agenda. So yeah, Victoria, the industry has changed. I didn't realize how rude and selfish people were. Both of us were in a show together. We've been in, we interact here and there if we would see each other at events, but it's rare because I don't go out and socialize. But we were both in a show. And as she was promoting the show, she listed everyone but me. That's how I started to realize somehow she has a magical issue with me. And I'm like, what? So when I marketed the show, even though I don't follow her online, I don't follow all burlesque people, or some people I can't tag because of their settings, I still will spell out their name. I still have decency and professionalism and just basic, what I think are industry standards, especially like to just intentionally leave one person out. Once she saw I did that, then her next promotions of the show, she spelled out my name. Cute. I referenced this in a video. If you look at my happy birthday video to Pearl, that story was about Victoria Reno. There were some other instances with her just being straight rude. I was at a SlutChurch show, and a friend of mine was standing by the door with the door person and one other, Victoria, who's a producer, an industry person, a pillar of wonderfulness. Remember, I'm the evil one. Walked in and was like, she referenced my friend, was like, oh, look at your annoying fans all around you, or something she said to the door person. It was absolutely inappropriate, rude, and just stank. And my friend, who doesn't really know us or the burlesque industry, came up to me and was like, what was that about? I don't even know them. This is what I'm saying. Some of you are fucking careless, rude, and assholes. And you don't know who you're talking to and the impact that has on them just because you're having a bad day. Then stay the fuck home. So my friend did go back and confront them about it. They gave an excuse that they were stressed or whatever. But this is what I'm used to, this rude person. I remember even the show that they didn't first want to promote me as being in, once we were there and in the dressing room, because again, at that point, I didn't know we had issues. This was in July. I didn't know. I know there are things they've done where I'm like, but we didn't have issues. So I even turned to her because I brought my fog machine and my pole to the show. And I was like, hey, Victoria, do you want me to use my fog with you when you perform too? you could see she was totally taken aback that one, I was talking to her and that I was offering something to her, probably because she had this whole narrative started by HoneyTree of whatever about me. The fog machine didn't work. I wish I could have made it work for both her act and mine, but ultimately it didn't. So I get that she's retiring. It's good that you are, because you need to fix your fucking stink attitude and how you talk to people. So that's some of what happened with SlutChurch and HoneyTree. One day I'll present like facts and like dates and timelines. I don't know. It's just a lot. It's a lot. Even most of this blew up on social media first 2 weeks of August. We're in October now. So again, while even other issues in the industry arise, like there's an artist that many people are having problems working with that I've been in shows where they were in, and they want to know what Siren Pack, how our approach is to it, like both the New York and Philly industry. There's so many things we need to address. And at the same time, I'm still even just doing that. Like my call is tomorrow. And I know people are like, we want answers. We want information right now. I also need to go have lunch. I need to email my performers for a show. Like I also have other priorities in my life, and posting on social media is not even the thing. But I knew at some point I needed to speak on this. And I'm starting to see other stories, just stuff that's not like, or right now, this is actually what I'm dealing with. There are other people who are making it about themselves or twisting it, or. And right now, my biggest priority is one, my mental health. It's not in a good place. Then two, my livelihood, right? Because I need to eat to be alive, right? I need somewhere to sleep. So I got to make sure that's taken care of. Like I got to put my air mask on first. And I am still trying to do that. Like I don't have the strength to even grab the mask to put on me. I'm trying to stay alive right now. And then on top of that, because, multiple things can be true at once and I can be experiencing multiple emotions at once, I am running my brand where there are many people connected to it, many responsibilities. That's my priority. And then just different other things in my life, my friendships or whatever else. That is what's going on with me right now as a human, as a performer. That's not even me as like the producer, co-founder of SlutChurch, or not SlutChurch, sorry, Siren Pack. It's a lot of S's. And my other brand is Speakeasy Noir. So I know a lot of people have many things going on. And my name keeps being used by people. Must be a good brand. I'm a controversial brand or something. Because whether it's for good or bad, and the way people flip, the way people expect you just to always agree with them, the way people don't know how to have differences of opinions but still work through them, and how my name is just being used as like a banner for either good or bad. It's fucking fascinating watching. But I want to give you some details. I've never just like shared what was going on with SlutChurch. There have been numerous production issues with HoneyTree, but on March 1st, she sent me an alarming text that probably had like revealed that she'd had issues with me going back a while. But March 1st was when I was alerted to this. And it's been nothing but hell from her since. And the narrative is that it was both of us. And she's gotten numerous people to make public statements compromising both my corporate jobs and my nightlife jobs. There's some non-Black woman putting my name in the same sentence as rape. There's so much going on, and this shit needs to stop.